But
according
what
to
I've
the plan.
discovered is that, okay, let's get started tonight. We got a presentation, a continuation on some advanced 3D in Adobe Illustrator. Now, again, Adobe Illustrator is typically used for low-end 3D rendering, if you will. If you want to do some more advanced stuff, you need to use Adobe Dimension, which I love to learn, or some high-end 3D tool like 3D Studio Max. There's several other different tools that you can use to create 3D. But Adobe Illustrator is mainly for logos, small images, graphics, shapes, and different things like that, but nothing fancy that you want to use to do 3D with. So with that in mind, we're going to create a typical product scene, if you will. This is a Coca-Cola can. In fact, if I got my little video right, my screenshot, we're going to be kind of creating this right here in 3D Studio Max. I'm not saying 3D Studio Max, in Adobe Illustrator. I used to use 3D Studio Max when I was a part of ITT Technical Institute. But anyway, let me share my screen.
Before you share your screen, Cornelius, would you please show us the can once more when you moved it? It was just a blur on my.
Let me see if I can. It's just a regular Coke can, Coca-Cola can. Okay, and I don't know if I could get it in focus. Maybe if I do that, yeah. I don't know if I can show that. But anyway, it's a regular Coke can that we're going to be creating a 3D version of, if you will. So did I click the share screen yet? Let me click share screen. And then my desktop.
Cornelius, let me pause you for a second. I think I did something clumsy. I was trying to put the focus on you, but I think I put it on myself. So let me try to figure out how to get it back on you.
Only by the host.
Well, I think if you're sharing your screen, it's probably okay.
Okay. So can you guys, let me, let's see. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
You see the Coca-Cola red label?
See the Coca-Cola logo on the left?
Okay, yeah, good. Okay, so we're going to be creating a product, in this case, a 3D product, a Coca-Cola can. I noticed if you go to YouTube and you do Adobe Illustrator, a lot of things that comes up with Coca-Cola cans or Coca-Cola bottle or something like that. It's one of the first things you do when when learning how to create 3D products. So anyway, let's get started. And
hey, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I'm not seeing your screen.
You're not?
Okay, you know, it may be because I put the focus on the wrong thing. I'm having difficulty turning the focus off.
Okay.
Can anybody guide me as to where to find how to do that?
It should be at the bottom of the screen, right? Where it have the rest of the
Yeah, that's what I think, but I'm just not finding it. And thank you for speaking up, John. No.
Oh, you're welcome.
Participants. Yeah.
Maybe if I stop sharing and reshare, let me try that again, see if that works. And do my desktop. And I'm gonna click on.
I'm spotlighting Cornelius. Is that putting his screen on?
Okay, I think this everyone can see your video because the whole spotlighting you. So that did that do it, John?
I see you now.
Do you not see my screen though?
I do not.
Okay, it may be because I'm spotlighting you. And,
yeah.
You know what I can do? First of all, I can make John a co-host. Maybe he can help.
Well, what about Sam too, though?
Yeah, I could do that too.
Sam, can you see my screen?
I see your screen now.
Okay, we're all co-hosts, and I'm asking.
What about Sam though?
I just made him a co-host. I
Oh,
haven't
everybody
made
co-host?
Yeah, I haven't made, yeah, you can do that now.
Okay.
But
wow.
what I want to do is to turn off the turn off the focus from me, and I'm not seeing how to do that. That's the problem.
Okay, and let me do one other thing for, let me do system preferences. What am I looking for? The oh, accessibility, that's what I'm looking for. And display. Right here. Mouse option. Where is it? I'm trying to increase the size of the cursor. That's the speed of the mouse. If it's on a display. There we go, cursor. There we go. There you go.
Oh, that's huge.
Yeah, that's the senior citizen version. I can say that now. I'm 60, you know, so I can say that's
Oh,
a
you
senior.
aren't a senior till you're 65.
Oh, huh? I thought it was 60.
I don't think
55.
No, I don't think so.
Oh, is that?
Well, you can join AARP, but you aren't ready for Medicare until you're 65.
Oh.
That's or Social Security.
Oh.
Okay.
They built a really nice apartment complex down the street, but it's for over 60 only. I was thinking about getting a fake ID since I'm so close.
Right. So anyway, let's get started, you guys. That's funny. Okay. So anyway, so let's recreate this. Man, that cursor is really big. Anyway, we're gonna try to recreate this object. So anyway, I'm gonna select this and I'm gonna use black and white. It's always right. So anyway, I got this box right here, this triangle that I created. Now, typically when you're creating a 3D object, you always want to create, when you're using the revolve method. Now remember, there's a lot of different methods to create 3D objects, right? You have the revolve, you have inflate, which is a new one I may add. You have rotate, which is actually like 2D, and then you have extrude and bevel. Well, anytime you use the revolve method, you basically have to have a half of the object, what we call a profile of the object, in order to lathe it. Now, what I mean by that? Well, let me illustrate that before I go any further. I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna just draw a little box right here, and let's just give it a color so you can see this clear. And then I'm gonna use the what am I looking for? I'm looking for the line segment, and I'm gonna draw a little line right here. Hold on, Shift key to constrain it straight, and I'm gonna bump up my line. So here we have this box right here. If I want to revolve this to create a shape, in this case a cylinder, it's gonna wrap around that line, that line right. Oh man, that's really big. That's a big cursor. I'm that's way big for me. Anyway, watch what happens when I do effect. And I'm gonna do 3D, but I'm gonna do the revolve method. Okay, and now, and it's kind of hard to see, so let me turn off my stroke for right now so you can see it better. Now you can see this, and I'm gonna move this line a little in the middle here so you can see this better what's happening. And now again, I'm just demonstrating here, so don't worry about what I'm doing. I'm just illustrating how the revolve method works. If I do the offset, not the offset, excuse me, the rotate. So okay, so there you go. So let's say you had that flat object right here. Move it over there on this line right here. And so imagine I'm spinning that around that line to create a cylinder. So this is just a plain 2D shape, but I'm gonna lathe it for you woodworking folks out there. Y'all know what I'm talking about. I'm gonna wrap this thing around that line, and I can do that. I love this because I can do it in real time here. And notice I can revolve. You see how it's kind of expanding and going around that line. Now the line, I'm gonna send it to the back so you can see this better. Arrange, send to back, and I'm gonna move it so you can see. So you kind of see it's kind of lathing around that line there. And I'm gonna move this as it moves. And I got
Before you moved it over so that the line was right in the center of the radius.
Yeah,
why,
I'm just doing that.
How was it wrapping around the line when it
It's
wasn't
not actually
in the
wrapping
center?
around the line. I'm just kind of simulating this. It's not actually
Okay.
wrapping around the line. I'm trying to kind of give you a visual of how the lathe method or 3D method, which is one of the full methods that works. So it's not actually going around that line, but I'm simulating what it's doing.
Okay.
So you can appreciate that better than me saying it. You know, I often tell people some things are best explained not through explanation, but through demonstration, right? And I think you'd appreciate this a lot better that you can see. And then I'm gonna draw, let me hold on the Alt key. I'm gonna pull out another line, make this one smaller. And then I'm gonna move this one down. And I'm gonna move this one over. So kind of give the, and I'm gonna move this in the front, arrange, let's see. Why is my, there you go, arrange, bring to front. So now when I move it, so basically I'm spinning that box that you saw around this line right here, if you will, to create a cylinder, from a square to a cylinder. So, and you kind of see right here, this is a better picture of it right here. You see how it's just kind of like a little cake, right? And that's what that revolve angle does. It creates the amount of angle that you going around an object to create a particular
What is
shape.
the word under the icon you just selected? Starts with an R, but we can't, it's not big enough to see.
Where is it again? Right here, offset?
No, you just chose the third icon from the left.
Oh, right
It
here.
looks like
So
what is that word underneath it is what I'm asking.
this word right here?
No, up there, I think it's revolve.
Revolve, right? This here? Is that what you're talking about, Karen?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay.
I just couldn't see it.
So this is plane, which is really 2D. This is extrude, which is when you take a shape and extrude it. And this is revolve, and this is inflate. And remember, we did that in day one. We talked about the different types of 3D effects, right? So this one is, you're not going to use that often. The one you're going to use the most is extrude and revolve. Inflate, that's a new one. If you want to create some cartoon looking 3D, inflate is a good method to use as well, because it's going to kind of inflate it like a balloon. If I were to, and again, I don't want to spend too much time on that. But if I took a shape, let me go over here and if I grab this shape here, let me just draw a couple of shapes just to show you all three methods. So that's revolve right there. If I select this one and do extrude, that's what you get, right? So you get this 3D shape. If I select this one and do revolve, you get a cylinder. If I select this one and do inflate, why is that inflate now? Okay, there you go. You get this inflate thing here. You can kind of see it from the side view better. So those are the, and then in playing this one here, you don't even want to play with that one, because this one just gives you kind of a 2D looking shape of that object if you did that. And so this is not actually 3D, this is just 2D in 3D space, basically. So it doesn't have any depth to it. So you very seldom do you use that unless you're creating, like, remember as we did, a stack of papers or something. Like I can hold on my Alt key and duplicate these multiple times. That'd be good for that kind of effect, right? But it's not actually creating 3D of sort. So I'm gonna select that and hit delete. So let's delete those. Anyway, I wanted to kind of explain what the lathe method is doing. That's what I'm doing now. So going back to what we're trying to do is, let me close this out. We want to create the shape of the can first, and then we're going to cut the can in half several different ways. Okay, so now you could use a pen tool to create the shape of the can, but there's an easier approach, at least for what I'm trying to do today. I'm gonna create these corners using, if I double click on it, let me show you, I'm gonna pull up this transformation panel that allows you to assign different corner edges, if you will. For example, if you click here, you see you got the rounded corner, you got the, what is it called? Inverted round, and then you got this one. And I can't see the name of it, Schaefer or something like that. So you got 3 different kind of edges that you want to put to this can, or to this triangle, I should say, to make this can. So I'm gonna select this one right here. In fact, I'm gonna do the top one first because I want this one to be at 25. Let me select what I want to affect first. We'll make this 25. You see it's curving right now. You see this curve right here? So I'm gonna make this 25. And now I'm gonna change it to this one. So you see what it did right here? Can you guys see that? Let me zoom in and give you a bigger view of it. Yeah, can you all see that? Okay, so let's do it to this side. So I'm gonna come over here and I'm gonna bump that up to 25. I could easily just type it in as well without having to click on the arrow. And then I'm gonna change it to that corner edge. Then I'm gonna go down to the bottom here using my hand tool. Y'all like that big hand? Look at that. Waving 5, okay? And I'm gonna add 15 to these sides, to the bottom of it. You'll see the methods for my madness in a minute. Okay, and then I'm gonna change that to a little edge view. And likewise, I'm gonna do this one, but this time I'm gonna just double click in here and do 15. And then I'm gonna change that to that. And then I'm gonna double click on the magnifying glass. That's to go back to 100% and use my hand to pan it. Use a hand to pan. How y'all like that? Okay. And this is, you kind of see, this is a kind of somewhat of a shape of, I don't know if you guys can see my Coke can again. I could bring it into focus, right? I don't know if y'all can see the curved edge right here and then the curved edge at the bottom, right? So that's what I was trying to create with that effect. Now, again, you can use the pen tool.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
It looks like the cutout corners on the top are bigger than the cutout corners on the bottom.
They are, and I did that purposely.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was done by design. Because remember, I made these 25, and the 2 top are 25. And the 2 bottom are 15.
I got you. Right, that makes sense. Thank you.
And so I did that by design, because if you looked at the can, there's a bigger curve here, if you can see it, than at the bottom.
Okay, thank you.
So that's what I was trying to simulate. Now again, it's not a perfect example of this, but it's good enough for what I like to say, because I work for the state, good enough for
Right.
work.
Yeah.
I can say that.
Thanks a lot.
I can say that and not get in trouble. Because I've been saying that for 10 years. And it hadn't gotten me in trouble yet. Okay, so anyway, I got the shape of a can. Obviously, I need to do some things to make it a 3D shape. So the next thing I want to do is cut the can in half. I see some comments coming in here. Okay, good enough for government work. That's Sherry. Okay, I want to cut this can in half. Now, the thing to remember when you're dealing with 3D, you're going to see this as we move forward. When you're dealing with 3D, it's always important to do all of the stuff up front before, emphasis there, before you convert it to 3D. Because when you convert it to 3D, there are some things that you cannot do. So do what I call, and I wrote it down here, do the color, do the cutting, do the contouring, and the converting. You want to do all of that before you convert it to 3D. Because when you convert it to 3D, as we will see, how you like that, there's some things that you can't do, and I'm gonna illustrate a few of those as we go. So now that I have a shape, the full shape of a can, I can't use that because it wouldn't create the right 3D object with the revolve method, right? I want to go in and cut this can in half. So what I'm gonna do is use the scissors tool. Scissors does what? Cut, okay? And notice when I hover over this line, I get path, and then it goes to intersect. I love that. You gotta excuse me, I get excited just seeing that. Because back in the old days, 15 years ago, you used to have to use, y'all remember guides and grids? Y'all remember having to use all of that and you had to align stuff to the grid and do three grid cells this way, three
God,
grid cells
yes.
that way, all that craziness, right? You don't have to do that anymore with this new smart guides, what I think it was called. It automatically knows the center of an object. Even if you move the object, it still recognizes. In fact, if I move this object over here and then hover back over on this shape, you see it goes to path. And then when I get to the center, and let me just move it back so you can see it better. When I get to, man, all these different cursors coming up, huh? When I get to the center of it, now it's not showing it. What is that? Oh, there it is. I saw it a minute ago. Come on. Oh, no. Why is that not showing it? All right. Okay, it was showing it. Now I proved myself. I was all excited about it. Now it's not showing it. So I should hover over here and it should line up. And I'm not seeing it now. Oh, I need the scissors tool. I was on the move tool. That's my fault. That's user's error. There we go. Okay. I was using the wrong tool. So my fault, my bad. I mean, why is this stupid thing not working? I saw it working a minute ago, right? Lesson learned. You got to be on the right tool in order for the thing to work.
Well,
Anyway,
that happens to everybody. You know, that stupid thing. I hate this program. It's not. Oh, I don't have the thing click. Yeah,
especially when you're
happens all the
teaching,
time.
right? Especially when you're teaching. It's like
Exactly. Yeah.
you're doing it all the time. And now I know this thing's supposed to be working, right? Well, I was on the move tool instead of the scissors tool, and that's the reason why. When I was hovering over, I'm thinking, I know I got all the way to get to the center of the thing easily. Anyway, I'm gonna click here, and I'm gonna come down here, see, and I'm gonna look for it, wait for it right there, and I'm gonna click there. Okay, now please use the scissor tool on a segment, and I must was not on that segment. So click there. So now if I look at this, move this out of the way, click the V key, a very important key. The V key is what I call the move tool and the selection tool, right? So you can move that object out of the way. So now I had this half of, what I refer to as a profile, because that's what you need when you use the revolve tool. See right here, you need half of a shape, just a little, triangle to revolve it around that axis as we had demonstrated earlier. So now that we have that, we need to do some slicing and dicing. So we cut it vertically. Now let's do some horizontal cuts and create three separate objects. Okay, so I'm gonna go in here and I'm gonna use the pen tool. Actually, I'm gonna use the scissors tool first because I want to cut it into 3 pieces. So this one, I'm gonna cut this at the top on this path right here, and I'm gonna cut it down. When I cut it, and I'm gonna cut it down here right at the bottom here. Now you'll see it doesn't seem like it's cut, but if I use the move tool and use the shift key and use the up arrow, you can see indeed that I did cut it. Okay. I'm gonna select that and do shift down arrow 2 times to move it. So you see I got 3 separate shapes. And the reason for that, you see in a minute. Now that I've cut it vertically and horizontally, now let's create individual shapes out of each one of those. So I'm gonna use the pen tool, and oh man, that's a big pen. Oh man, can y'all see that pen tool? That is big. Okay, so you notice when I hover over the edge of that pen tool, it shows you that little line. You see a little line next to it at the bottom
It's
corner?
all very clear.
Right. Okay, that's really big, huh? So I'm gonna click to connect that line, as it were, to that segment or vector for you geeks out there, shape. And then I'm gonna notice again my smart guy. Isn't that cool? I love that. And then when I get there, it says intersect. That is intersecting to that top shape up above. So when I click there, bam, and then I'm gonna go up and I'm gonna click right there, that anchor, bam. Okay. So I created that shape. Now I'm gonna come over here. I'm gonna click again. I'm gonna move over to say it's intersecting. Notice how it's intersecting to that top shape, right? Click there, bam, and then I'm gonna come down, and because I want to get to the bottom of that, and also the bottom edge of this thing right here too. So I want to get an intersection of that and the bottom, and then I'm gonna come over. So it's basically helping me to draw because I can't draw a stick figure, literally. And so this helps me to draw. If you can't draw an Illustrator, let the Illustrator draw for you. What about that? And likewise, I'm gonna do that for this one. So I'm gonna click here. I'm gonna hover over till I get to that intersect. Bam, come down, bam. Without much fuss, I've created, let me use my magnifying glass here to zoom out just a bit. I created those three shapes, right? I got this top shape, which is going to be the lid of the Coke can, if you will. This is the actual can itself, and this is going to be the bottom of the can. Okay, and this is going to be, and we'll colorize these. So again, remember you got to do all the C's. I was trying to do all C's to help you remember this. You want to cut it, you want to colorize it, and you want to contour it. How you like that? Okay, 3 C's. Keep that in mind. Okay, so let's do the colorization of it. Okay, so I'm gonna make this thing up here. Let's fill it with a light gray. Bam. Okay, and then I'm gonna fill this with the color of this. Well, let me do the bottom first. Let me make that a light gray, and I'll show you the reason for that in a bit. Now, when I select this one, I want to make it the same color as this label because I want to match it when I create the 3D object. So I'm going to use the eyedropper tool to sample. You see that big eyedropper? That's a big eyedropper. I'm going to sample that and watch what happens. I'm going to sample it. Bam. Now, what happened? Let me see, I'm going to quiz you guys. What's the difference between what happened when I used the eyedropper tool versus when I just did a quick fill? Can anybody see what happened?
It made it the foreground color.
Okay, that's true, but there's something else subtle that happened when I used the eyedropper tool. Can anybody guess? Can you see what happened?
It instantly filled the other shape that was already selected.
True.
You didn't have to paste.
Well, I'm looking for something else. Okay, Sherry. Okay, Sherry raised her hand. What did she say anything?
She putting it into the text because she doesn't
That's
have
right.
a microphone.
Stroke. Okay, it got rid of the stroke. Okay, so let me do Control Z, Control Z.
Sure,
See that
was
stroke right there? So when you use the eyedropper tool to sample a color with an object selected, it's going to automatically, one of my favorite words you guys know, remove the stroke. So and that's something you may want to do. In this case, I don't want to do it because I'm going to illustrate something else in a minute that you need to be aware of, because I always like to teach by mistake, teach what not to do in order for you to remember things better. I'm not going to deselect that shape, and now I'm going to use the eyedropper tool and select that color. This time, because nothing is selected, you know the golden rule, only what's selected, what? Gets affected, right? It gave me that color, but it didn't apply to that object because that object is not selected. Now I'm gonna just drag, by the way, you could do that, drag that color onto that shape and fill it. Now notice the stroke is still there. I don't know if you can see it. It's faint, but it's there. That stroke is still there. It's almost probably one
Yeah,
pixel,
it's
I
visible.
guess. It's very faint, but it's still there. And and there's a reason why I kept it there. I'm gonna talk about in just a minute. Now that we have our three shapes, we did what? We did the contour, we did the cutting, and we did the color. C. C for Cornelius too. Okay, just throw that in there. No charge for that one. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna select this and I'm gonna move this down like so, because I was just showing you that to show you that it indeed cut that shape when I use a scissor tool to do that. And I'm gonna move this up. I'm using the shift key and my up arrow twice to move that back in place just like so. Now you kind of, you probably see where I'm going with this, right? Now, I'm gonna duplicate this because I want to make, let me delete this old one, this other half rather. I'm gonna duplicate this. I'm gonna select what I want to affect, which is all three shapes. Hold on my Alt key or the Option key on the Mac for you Mac folks. And you get the little double arrow, black and white arrow, meaning it's gonna duplicate. I love that. And I'm gonna duplicate that over here because I want to illustrate something as we move forward. Now, I got these three shapes and I'm gonna make it a 3D object. Okay, so let's see what happens when I do that. So I select all three and I'm gonna do effect and I'm gonna do 3D revolve is what I want to do, right? Bam. It did make a 3D object, but it's all in black. And why is that? Can somebody tell me why that shape is all black?
Well, when I work in 3D, I have to have lights. Otherwise, everything's black.
Okay.
But that's in After Effects. So I
That's
don't know.
After Effects. Can anybody guess why that can is all black? The top of the can is black, the bottom of the can is black, and the can itself is black. Now, why is that? Can anybody remember from day one of my training about why that is? I almost gave away the answer there, but why that is? Anybody?
Color is black.
What was that?
I was saying the absence of color is black.
No, not the absence of color. Quite the contrary, in fact. Let me tell you what the problem is. Remember from in day one when we started teaching about 3D, that the stroke color dictates the skin of the object. So there's color behind this object.
So this is all skin.
That's the skin of the object. So let me do Control Z. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get rid of the stroke on each of these objects. So go here and I'm gonna select stroke right here. And I'm gonna click on this icon right here. And if you look carefully, the stroke is removed off that lid. You guys can see that? I'm gonna select this one and it's already selected and I'm gonna click here. Now, an easy way for you you fast folks out there to do that is to hit the / key to remove the stroke. So when I click the / notice it automatically remove the stroke without me having to go way over here and clicking on that. You guys tracking that? And the easy way to remember that, by the way, is this line right here, right? That's the slash, right? So that lets you know that a way to remember the / key, / key, will remove a stroke from an object. Now, if you use the other slash, that's going to give you the line option, okay? So if you use the other, not the forward, but the /, that will create that would activate, you see right here, it activated a line tool. So again, just a little tip there, if you will, on learning how to create a line and how to remove a stroke with the forward and backward slash. So anyway, now that we have no stroke, which again is the skin, and by the way, the thickness of the stroke also dictate the thickness of the skin, as we remember from day one of the class, right? So now that we've removed the skin and we got the bone or I guess the tissue, as it were, if we want to use a human analogy. Now let's select all three of these. And in fact, I'm gonna duplicate this again because I want to illustrate yet another concept that you don't want to do. So I'm gonna hold on the Alt key and we'll duplicate this one, just so I won't have to remove the stroke from this one later on. So let me move this one aside. Now, I'm gonna select rather these three shapes, and now I'm gonna apply the effect again, exact same effect again. So I'm gonna go up here, do effect, and I'm gonna do revolve, bam. Notice now that it created three different shapes, right? And they offset a little bit. Notice they're not on top like they should be. And I can move them in place by just selecting that shape and kind of using my arrow keys to kind of put the lid on the can, as it were, literally and figuratively speaking, and put the bottom on the can right here. I can literally just do something like that. And put the bottom on a can there. And I'm gonna put a little lip here so this is more pronounced later on, but because I want to illustrate that as well. Now that we have the three shapes, the problem with this approach that we just did is that when you create a shape, when you create shapes and you select all of them and you do a 3D, they all become 3D objects and they are separate and distinct. Let me show you that. If I click here, notice, look, this can is moving, but the top and the bottom is not moving, right? That's because there are three individual shapes that got created. Not what you want to do. Okay, so what the moral of the story here is that when you create objects out of individual shapes, you have to first group them first. Now, grouping shapes presents some problems, as we will see. But if you want the object to move as a unit, you got to group it. And you guys know how to group things. In most programs, it's typically Command and Control G, right? Or you right click on it and select G from the context sensitive menu. So let's select that other shape. Oh, what is that? Where did that come from? I don't know where that came from. I think I was using that earlier for something. Anyway, I'm gonna select this shape, or three shapes, I should say, and I'm gonna right click and do group, or Command Control G if you're a keyboard person. Now that I group, let's do the same thing again, but this time let's see what happens. So if I do effect, 3D and material, revolve, again, same thing. Now, when I move this object, notice it moves as a unit as opposed to this object, which moves individually, right? Or you can Control Z, or you can select that top object and move it, right? You can do the Coca-Cola dance, okay? All right, so there you have it. You can move this as a unit now without much fuss. Title of my new book. Okay, so now that I have this shape, and again, I could use this center point. Basically, you can take this thing in 3D space any which way you want, and then you can also use your X/Y axis to rotate it however you want. Now, this is the back of that object. I can tell because it's dark. So I want to rotate it to the front, and then I want to kind of position it like so. Straighten it up a little bit so you can see it better. Now that we got the shape, let's see what we can do with mapping stuff to the shape. Okay, so we got the object, we use the revolve method. Now I could do this, show you that it's literally, that's how I got created. See how it kind of animates around? You can see the back of it, right? It just revolving around that shape gets revolved around an axis, if you will, to create that that cylinder of sort, right? And the offset, now, if I did offset, it's going to really create a hole in the can. See that? That's how you create a hole in an object, by creating an offset with the shape. We don't need that for this object. And then if you go different shapes by layering it from different angles, okay? And then you can remove the cap from the object sometime when you have a stroke. In this case, we don't have a stroke, so it's not really affecting the cap is not active. So that's the object. We got the object we want. Let's talk about the material. Okay. Now, remember I told you when you group an object, you can't, what I want to say, there's some things you can't do when you group an object. Let me illustrate what I'm saying. Let's say, now we don't want to do this, but let's say I wanted to apply material to that object. And this is about the closest thing I saw to silver. So if I drag this, actually select this object and apply it, notice it applied to the whole object, and rightly so, right? Because we grouped all of the objects, and the object is a unit now. So when you group objects and then you apply material to it, it will apply it to all of the object, of the whole object, I should say. So I'm gonna do Control Z. So the moral of the story is that whatever you need to do it before you apply material, or you keep them individually, and then you can apply material as needed. For example, if I click on that object, I give it this is a gold top can, this is an expensive can of Coke. And you can apply different to individual object. Maybe I want this to be wood. Okay, maybe I want to make another object out of it, right? So I can select those individual objects individually, right? And then give them 3D properties. But if I try to do it when it group, it's gonna apply it to the whole group. Okay, so keep that in mind. I'm gonna do Control Z to undo that. So that's another thing that, again, I like to teach by mistake is you want to group objects first, emphasis on word first, and then you can apply the 3D object if you want to use it, if you wanted to rotate it. Now, if you don't have to rotate it, then you can keep them individually. But most of the time, you want to rotate object to get a different perspective of that object. Now, okay, so we created an object. We talk about lighting, a material rather. Now, there's one other thing about material that you can apply, and that is the roughness. Now, since this is a flat color, doesn't have any texture to it, the roughness doesn't really matter, right? I mean, it's not gonna make that much difference. Now, what I do like is the metallic effect. So if I click on this, notice that highlight, in Photoshop, you got highlights and low lights. Well, actually, you don't have low lights. You have highlights, mid-tone, and shadows. And John knows what I'm talking about, right? And so you could apply a metallic look to this just by sliding, using this slider right here, and you can get different looks and feel of lighting or metal effect, if you will. I'm gonna keep it at that. So we did the object, we did the material, and later on we'll do the lighting, okay? But for right now, I wanna map something onto the surface of this object. Now, by the way, you can tell if an object has been grouped. If you select an object, you see up here it says group. When it's not selected, it'll say path or something to that effect. If it's a rectangle, it'll say rectangle. If it's a line, it'll say a line, right? So that's how you know an object has been grouped. By the way, you can also double click inside of a group, just like you could do back in the days of Flash. And actually Illustrator have always had this. But now it shows you that you're drilling down into the group, and you can select the individual components now. See, I can select that and move it. Even though it was grouped, I can still move it if I drill down into that object. Okay, and I'm gonna do Control Z to undo that and go back to the top level, if you will, of that object, which is the canvas, if you will. Now that we have the object, and we gave it a little metallic look, let's apply this logo to that surface. Now I could go over here, and obviously that won't work. If I do arrange, bring to front, and do that, well, that is what we call cheesy. Okay, that doesn't look too good. Okay, so we want to use another technique. Now, this object happens to be a symbol that I created earlier when I was doing this. If I go to materials, you have two categories of material. You have materials, which is procedural ways of creating texture onto an object that you see here. And then you have graphics. Now, graphics are any graphics that you convert to a symbol. Now, remember in day 1 or 2, we talked about how you take any shape and you go up to Windows, Symbols, and you literally just drag and drop that shape into the symbol library, and I'm gonna call this label. Right, click OK, and notice it shows up in the symbol library. Well, once it gets in the symbol library, it also shows up in this library. And I did one earlier right here. Okay, so now that I have it as a symbol, how do I map it onto the surface of this object? Well, golden rule again, select what you want to affect, right? So I'm gonna select this object, which is 1 unit, by the way, since we've grouped it. And I'm gonna literally drag, I'm gonna select this. Notice that I have graphics selected and not material, right? So that's material and that's graphics. So now I'm gonna select this and bam, notice it mapped it and wrapped it. How you like that? Map and wrap. I like that. Okay, that's fresh off the press, by the way. That onto the surface of this object. Now this is way big. You can see it's way over here. I'm gonna scale this down so you kind of see it better. So there we go. I got it mapped, and it's literally mapped and wrapped onto the surface of that object. Now I want to rotate that, so I can go to the edge here, and like in most programs, anytime you see that little arrow to icon, you know you can rotate an object like so. Now you can also scale and rotate using the slider here. So if I use this slider, notice I can rotate it. I mean, I can scale it big or small. I'm gonna make it a little bit smaller. Or you can also rotate it, right? So you could go either way. I want it, what, 90 degrees, I believe. Yeah, and so there you go. So now, there you have it. And then I could scale it down a little bit. Why is that? I look like that spell. Yeah, I guess that, okay, I need to stretch it out a little bit, I think. There we go. Okay, so anyway, you kind of play around with it. You can manipulate it on stage, or you can manipulate it here to get it. Now, the good news too, though, is that you can map multiple labels onto the same object. Let me illustrate what I'm saying. If I move this over, notice it kind of slides to the side, slide to the side. If I go back to my graphics again and click on this thing, click on this object, click on this logo again, notice that it wrapped another instance, that's a technical term, right? Another copy of that object onto that surface. And I'm gonna scale it down, obviously, because it's way too big. And I'm gonna rotate it again. Maybe I rotate it this way this time. And then I can scale it up like so. And then I can move it in place. Again, I can rotate it to the side, like you see it's going behind it. Now, because this is a single object, notice it also wraps to the top of that object if I wanted to. Now, obviously I wouldn't want it up there, but because it's a single object, because we grouped it, I can wrap it to the top of that object as well, which is a cool technique. So now I have two symbols. So I can add as many symbols as I want onto a single object without much fuss. Now, I don't want that. So if you don't want it, notice there's two instances of Coca-Cola symbol. If I want to delete one, I can just select what I want to affect, hit delete, bam. And then I got this one selected. I can just slide them over in place like so. Okay, now that I have that, let me try to apply what I want to say. I want to apply a material to the can shape. Watch what happens if I try to do that. So I got that can shape selected. I'm gonna double click on it to go into the group, right? So just the can and not the top or the bottom selected, right? Now, if I try to apply a material to it, and this time I'll select material instead of graphics, and I'm gonna click on any one of these. See, you can't do it, okay? And that's why I was telling you earlier, you can't do some things to an object that's been grouped. Okay, so I'm gonna do Control Z to undo that, to get back to my original shape. And then I'm gonna get out of the, what they call isolation mode, right? Back to the original mode. Now, there's other things you can do. You can apply lighting. So if I click here, let me select what I want to affect, and I'm gonna click lighting. You saw I'd pop with that light effect, go from here to there. Again, you kind of play with the lighting, whichever one you want. And you can, again, you can change all of the intensity, the rotation, the height, the softness, whatever tickle your fancy, if you will. And like that. Okay, so you can do that. And now I'm gonna call it a quit. So what I did also, by the way, again, this is still all rotatable, right? See, in 3D space. What I did earlier today, this morning, I added the lid of the can. So that's what I had that little black dot right there for. In fact, let me just do that real quick. And then I added the thing that this thing right here. If y'all can see it in my hand. I broke it off my can, right? But I created a little instance of that. That was a little shape that I just slapped on top of that shape. But if I want to create a hole in the can, notice I got that little logo right here. I have it where if it's in the symbol library, it's going to be in the graphics library here. So if I select that shape and then click on that, notice it's right there. That's the hole in the can. You know, you open your can, you got that little hole in it, right? And I'm gonna move it up. See how it kind of moves right up in there, and then I can rotate that however I want. I could scale it, probably make it a little bit bigger. Let's see if I can grab this handle here. Where scale it there? Whoa, where did it go? It's probably behind it. That's why you're not seeing it. Let me see. There we go. Anyway, I could play around with this thing and scale it, however big, however small I want. And then I can add the little lid that you open when you pop the can open. I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about. So I did that to the can as well. Now, one other thing you can do, I don't particularly like that. That looks cheesy. So what I'm gonna do is delete it. And so I need to go to graphics, select. Let me see if I can, yeah, here it is, right here. The can hole is what I call it. I'm gonna hit delete. Can hole. Hit delete, and I'm gonna delete it. What I want to do though, is, by the way, one thing to remember too though, is that when you using an object, if you grab this, you're gonna create you could do the 3D X, Y, and Z, right? If you go outside of this thing here, you do the translation. Now, you got to be careful when you use translation, because if you get to the edge here, watch what happens when I do this. Okay, so you see it changes that object together because it's laying it on the angle. Okay, so let me move it down a little bit further. Okay, so you see what's doing, not quite what I want to do. Now I can flip the can upside down doing this, right? Let me do Control Z a couple times to undo that. So again, outside of this circle, you can move, you can rotate, but you got to be careful about rotating it because you create a totally different object. Now here, if you want to rotate an object, you use your avatar right here if you want to rotate the object. Now, what I want to do is I want to put a little lip on here, and I want to drill down. Remember, I said there's some things you can, well, you can't do when you group. Well, there are some things that you can do. And in this case, I want to put a little lip, if you will, onto the top of this can. So I'm going to drill down. Remember how to do that. Double click to drill down. You see, I double click, I'm drilling down into that object, and I'm going to look for it. Okay, let's see. That's it right here. And I'm going to scale it a little bit bigger. And you see, I kind of gave a little lip at the top of the can, probably a little bit more than I wanted to, but you guys get the drift, right? And now when I go out and try to rotate this again, it's still gonna rotate without much fuss. And you can rotate this thing however you want. You can animate it too. I guess what I was trying to do is, if I come over here, I could probably just take a screen capture program. And if I wanted to rotate that, now I would have to probably, mask this thing here out. But I could probably create a little program to math to get rid of that thing out of there if I want to rotate it by moving this over to the side and rotating it in 3D space. By the way, when you rotate it, notice it gives you a low res version of it. You notice that corner, that top, it's not circular. It's not until you release the mouse that it renders a fuller version, a better version. It's not a ray trace version, but it's just a better version. If I release the mouse, give it a second, notice it's smoother now. Okay, that's something to keep in mind too. When you start rotating, it's going to give you a rough draft of it, as it were, until you let go the mouse, and then it's going to render it a better version of it. Anyway, that's what I had. I'm saying I did create the little top, but I'm not going to do that tonight, just because I said I was trying to get through by a little bit after 7. And any questions?
I have one for you, Cornelius.
Yeah.
So, it's a After Effects artist. So, and there's 3D tools in After Effects as well. And you can import 3D objects. And I don't, now maybe you know more. Last time I looked on this, if you create a 3D object in Illustrator, there's really no way to export it for use in After Effects. Is that?
I think there is. I hadn't done this, but I think if I recall correctly, I did see a video. You got to output it as an OBJ object, I believe. So let me see.
Okay. Right. All right.
So if I do output, let me see. Let's see, export as. Let me see if that does it. That's a ping file. That is Autodesk. I think one of these will work. Can you use these files, Autodesk files?
Not really, but you could. You could take it into Autodesk and then export an OBJ out of Autodesk.
Right. I think there's a way to do an OBJ version, if I recall.
Okay. Well,
I typically don't have to. I don't have a need to. Let me look at some other options. So this export screen. Let me see what that says. So that's just going to be a screen version of it. That's it.
Okay. Oh, well, there's an OBJ down there in the bottom right.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Okay, there we go. Right there.
Yeah.
So there you have it. I thought I remember that.
Yeah, I will try that then. Okay, good. Because I think when they first implemented the 3D, tools and stuff here in Illustrator, they weren't quite ready with the export way yet. But it's been a while now. So
I think there you go, right there. You can do the OBJ version of it.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Okay, that's great.
And that'll get you up and running. I knew I saw that, because I'm thinking, it would be nice to be able to pull this into another program like Adobe Dimension. I think that's good too. I would love to learn Adobe Dimension, which is the kissing cousins, if you will. Some of you guys are kissing cousins.
Yeah. Oh, that was one of the problems with Dimension too. Yeah. Okay. Right.
Yeah. That was a good question though. So you can output it as an OBJ object and import it into.
Okay. Well, that's what it is.
Autodesk.
I think you cannot in Dimension.
Oh, you can't?
Yeah, you can. I don't remember.
Okay.
Something, they change stuff so much when you teach too. Like, they changed this.
Yeah, this program is constantly evolving. And I was a little bit upset that you couldn't map something to the surface of the object. And then next month it came out with being able to do that. Because to me, that's a showstopper right there. You got to be able to map to the object, for crying out loud.
And it's surprisingly strong to me, because this really emulates what you can do in 3D programs.
Right.
Some HP Elite book or
Who's that, Donald?
Fairly chunky.
I'm just gonna mute him.
Donald, were you saying something?
Hi, how are you?
I heard something. Okay, let me look at the chat here, see what. A lot of users will monitor the chat. You got to map to the object for crying out loud.
Yeah. Kissing cousin.
Yeah, kissing cousin. 3D tool, and I know you can do text 3D in After Effects, and you can do some simple stuff. Any other questions? I'm kind of going through the chat to see if I'm. And I'm sure Sherry's been taking meticulous note as she usually does. Any other
Sherry
questions?
Sherry just asked about the attendance. I'm sorry, I didn't provide it. I'll put it in the chat room as soon as I get my hands on the link. And just to explain to everybody, when you attend one of these meetings, you get to fill out an attendance form, and we will be using that form for doing a raffle prize, in which you stand a very high chance of winning an annual subscription to the Creative Cloud. So let me just find that address and I'll put it in.
Okay, so I don't see any other questions in here that I may have missed. Okay, anything else? Do we have a speaker for next month?
It's not our regular speaker. I think, okay, here's what you need for the attendance. There's the chat room. Sorry, I'm being clumsy. That put it in? Yes. So if you follow that link and fill it out, we'll know you were here tonight.
Thank you, Karen.
Yeah, I like to
You're
be able to learn
welcome.
more After Effects too. After Effects is a really cool program. After Effects is like Photoshop and Flash in motion.
Yeah. Well, I was just thinking I can do another presentation next time we have a void, or I'll look
Well,
at
we
my
have a board
schedule.
right now.
Okay. Well, I'll look at my schedule and I'll email Karen or the group.
Okay. Well, we're always the second Thursday of the month.
Yeah. Okay.
And that would be great if you could do it. If not this month, then the November.
Okay. Yeah. I'd be glad to. I'll come up with some fun stuff to do.
That would be
Oh,
awesome.
wonderful.
That would be awesome because I would love to learn After Effects. Premiere is okay, but After Effects, I mean, I just love special effects.
Yeah, me too. And I can also do one later on Premiere like I've done in the past. And it's really, I mean, they've added some incredible, awesome features in the last 2 years.
Well, one of the things I like, and I use Premiere for with Camtasia, it does it automatically creates my closed caption for me.
Yeah, no, I love it for caption. It's incredible. It transcribes too now, like the same feature in
Exactly.
Camtasia.
Right.
So
yeah,
and it just works so incredibly well. Maybe that's what I'll do. I'll do like a captions review, or a title and graphics review in Premiere because it's stronger now.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be a one-time session. I've been doing this how long, Karen? For the last 3 months, I'm thinking.
Yep. No, this is actually step number 4 or 5, I think.
Yeah, well, I think we skip a couple months.
Yes, yes.
So yeah, I've been at this for the last, I don't know how long.
Yeah,
It's been a stretch.
Which I don't mind, but like to see some new faces.
Yep. Donald, do you want to introduce yourself and tell us what you do with Adobe products? You'd have to unmute yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, I attended this quite a while back, especially when you guys were meeting at the School for the Blind.
Oh, that's
Oh,
been a long
yeah.
time.
Yeah, and a lot of things have gone on, which have um, taken over my mind. But recently, after I got my new MacBook Pro, I hooked up with the
Hey, Google, be
Adobe
quiet.
Acrobat, especially
Hey,
through the
Google,
DC.
turn off music.
And so I'm working on learning that again because I used to use Acrobat a lot. I love PDF files, and I think they're the answer to saving the trees, so to speak. So, but I'm kind of locked at home because of health reasons. Not to get into that now, but I appreciate the fact that I can get out on Zoom to a variety of places. You know, I do Zoom from Washington State to London, England.
Yeah,
And it's
omnipresence.
yeah, it's my kind of fun. So I remember both of you, Karen and Cornelius, and I'm pleased to be able to see you again. So
Well, welcome back.
you're welcome. I'm glad to be
And
here.
if you're enthusiastic about Acrobat, we would love to have a presentation on that. We haven't done anything in Acrobat in a very long time.
Well, I've got to shallow out my learning curve if possible, so that I'll be able to talk intelligently.
Okay, well, keep it in mind.
Yeah, for sure.
Super. Well, think we should probably wrap it up then. Oh, well, one thing I did want to mention to you when you were talking about the transcript that you can do with, is it After Effects? I got a very good application called Otter AI, and it will, if you have a Zoom call or even a phone call, you can, I think it's a phone call. It's been a while since I've looked into it, but it does a machine transcription of the whole. Like if I record this Zoom call, there'll be a whole transcript of it. And it does a
Yeah.
very good machine transcript.
I love Otter. And now just this idea of this Premiere thing, I haven't used it in almost 2 years. But I love Otter. That's a good one.
Yeah, it's good for free for up to 45 minutes, I think. And after that, if it's like $150 a year for unlimited. And it also stores all of your transcriptions and recordings.
Yeah.
So
Cool. Yeah.
okay, well, I'll stop the recording. Thank you very much, Cornelius. And if you want to confer with me, I will put up an announcement tomorrow, and I'll also put the recording up, an announcement of whatever we're going to do in October.
Okay. I'll add
Thank you
one more
all.
thing, if I may.
Yes.
I'm
Sure.
typically going to be late because your meeting starts at the same time as an Al-Anon meeting for which I'm responsible. And so I will always be coming in late, but I will hit the button as soon as they break up.
Cool. Well, I'm glad you can join us. And if we ever do get you to present, we will have to figure out how to manage the time.
We'll work it out.
Super. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm going to end the meeting then. Thank you all. Have a great month.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Cheers.